Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, some viewer mail. Well, a while back I shared with you guys some viewer mail, and this week in the mail I got a package, and it was from a longtime viewer of the show, and it came to me all the way from England. So I was excited to open it, and I got it open. I looked inside, and I honestly couldn't believe what was in it. And so what I'm going to do on today's Alternative Tuesdays is I'm going to open the package, get the stuff out, we're going to put it together, and I'm going to show you what was sent, and we'll try it out and see what happens. Well, the package arrived at my house, and the first thing that I noticed is this little line here which says woodworking tool, and I got to thinking, what the heck could this be? And so as I opened it up, let me just show you what was in here. I see all of these parts, and then I see a manual. Sorry, there's a piece of the envelope I cut off, and we've got these little handles. And at some point in time I pulled out the base and realized what this is. And what it is it's basically, it's a sub base or a base for a trim router, so that you can use it like a normal handheld router. So we're going to assemble this today, and we're going to take her for a test spin and see how we like it. Well, the first thing that we want to do is mount our handles, and the handles get mounted with two Phillips head screws here, and they just line up on the side panels and then screw into place. And once you get the handles in place, well, then you can adjust it for your own comfort level depending on how you like the orientation of the handles to be. Now, I kind of like them opposite of what they are right now, so we're going to switch those up, and I'll show you how easy that is. So we'll just screw in this one, screw, and then we'll put this one in. I love getting stuff in the mail. It never ceases to amaze me, the generosity of the viewers of this show. It's unbelievable. It truly is. But anyway, here we go. So we got this handle screwed in now. Now you don't want to over tighten it, just until they're snug. You got to remember, you've heard me say this before on the show, that when it comes to the battle between a piece of plastic and a piece of metal like a screw, the metal will win every single time. See, now here I've already screwed up because I can't get my screwdriver in here to reconfigure these handles. So now I have to take it off. So there, let me demonstrate with this one what you can do with this. You can loosen this off here, and then you can spin it to the configuration that you like, and then you tighten it back down. So I'm going to take that handle off of there, put it back to the configuration that I like, and then I'll screw them both back on, and then I'll come back and see you. Well, the next thing that you want to do is remove the factory base plate from your router. In this case, I'm using my battery powered trim router, but I mean, it doesn't matter, battery powered, electric, it makes no difference with the actual sub base itself. So just remove your existing plate, and then we can carry on after that. So now that you have the base removed, you want to place this new base here on your router, and it has a little centering pin here to help you get it all nicely aligned. I'm just going to adjust the router because it's down a little too far. There we go. Now we've got it right. So you've got this little centering jig, and what you want to do is you want to rotate this base until these slots here line up with a couple of the factory holes for your original mounting plate. And once you get it aligned, we'll take two of the original screws and just place them loosely into the holes. Don't crank them down, because there's still another step. So we'll just place them in there loosely, and once we get them in there, then we'll move on to the adjustable slot pieces, which are these ones right here. There we go. Well, you now want to put these adjustable pieces in, and there's kind of a little track that they sit in, and all you want to do is slide them around like this here until they line up. So line up this one and line up this one, and just like we did before, use our factory screws, place them down in here, and just snug them in. Once you're happy with the fit and you've checked with your centering tool here to make sure that everything is lined up properly, then you can tighten them down and be content with it that you're done. And we'll just give them all a last little snug down. And there you go. Now you can remove your centering tool. Okay, so truth be told, I didn't really like the way that was mounting. The heads of the original mounting bolts for the base plate of my trim router are actually a little too small for these slots. So I was only catching with one edge of each of the bolt heads. So all I'm doing is I'm removing this, and the slot that they've given you to put these screws in, it is deep enough in my case that I'm able to add a number 8 flat washer onto each one of these screws, which is extending the head out just enough, making the head a little bigger so that the washers are catching both shoulders of this groove here, and I'm able to get it properly mounted. I'm a little happier with that, and you know what, that's okay. I mean, sometimes you gotta make little adjustments for this sort of thing. Well, now that we have it tightened down, I just want to double check. It doesn't tell you this in the instructions, but I just want to double check to make sure that I've got this centered. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we'll remove that there. And now you want to place the cover, which is this guy right here. And it just sits right over top of the base, just like that, and squeezes down. I have to be honest, I'm not really sure what the purpose of the cover is, but anyway, I'll put it on. They say to put it on, I'll put it on. And then they provide you with some bolts that now get screwed into the middle holes on each side here. And again, you don't want to crank it. You got to remember, plastic versus metal. Metal wins. So there we go. We'll just screw that in there. All right. Just like that. Now there's 2 other little accessories here that come with this thing, with this router base, and that are these things right here. And you know what, these are kind of cool. So for now, I'm gonna put these aside. We're gonna talk about these in just a bit. But I just wanna show you this, and let's try to do some edge routing to see how it feels with a trim router and now this big base. Let's see if it's bulky or what it is. Let's try this out. Okay, right off the bat, I like 2 things that I can see. Number 1, normally when I'm holding my trim router, you're holding it by the collar here, and your fingers on the smaller base plate are quite close to the bit. You really have to pay attention that you don't stick your finger in that hole while you're working on it. Whereas using this, I have my fingers and my hands out here. They're far away from the bit, and I still have tons of control. The other thing that I like is it's a much wider surface and really supports the trim router as it's going across that. I find more and more that I'm using a trim router more than any other router in the shop, and I'm finding that I'm using this battery operated one more than any of them that I have. So that's a real welcome addition to have the extra support and keep my fingers outside of the bit like that. So okay, even though this was just pine, it was still a pretty cool little test there to see how stable it was. So what else can this thing do? Well, I know what you're thinking. What else can it do? What do you mean what can it do? It's a router base. Well, that brings me to these little things here. And there are some threaded inserts both here in closer to the blade and here on the outside. And these little guys here just get screwed into these threaded insert holes. And you just put them in until they bottom out. Now, what these are for routing mortises. And I've got a 1/4 inch bit installed here. I'm going to use that same piece of pine I just used. It's just a piece of scrap, but I want to show you how these work to be able to get the mortises cut. Well, here we have that same piece of pine, and what happens is these pins that we screwed in, these spin, these rotate, and they act as a centering jig. And they center your router bit on here so that you can route your mortise. So let's just pretend that we need to route a mortise from, say, this spot here to this spot here. So all we need to do is take our router, line up our centering pins, and then plunge our router down into our stock. And then once our base sits flush, we can then carry on with the cut. So let's just give that a try. And just like that, got a bit of sawdust in there. There we go. But just like that, the mortise is cut. And I don't know, that's pretty cool, I think. If I wanted it deeper, right now this is only about 3/8 of an inch deep, but if I wanted it deeper, once you get to this point, turn the router on, put it in the middle, lower your bit down into it a little further, and then do the same routing process. It's very simple, very easy to do, and I don't know, that's my first try. I've never done that before, and I kind of like the results. They're nice and clean. It's a nice mortise. I think it's perfect. All right, so we'll just remove the power here, and once you're done with these mortise pins, so that you don't lose them or, you know, put them somewhere in your shop and say, where the heck did I put those? I know I put them here somewhere. They actually screw into the base in the outermost holes that are here. Remember I said there was 2 sets of threaded holes. Let me just pull the motor out of this to get it out of my way. There was 2 sets of threaded holes, so the ones here on the outside, these mortise guides just screw down into here, and that's where they live. So you never have to wonder where they are, or where did I put those, or man, I thought I saw those, or the ever classic, and this usually happens only with pencils, but pencils and tape measures, the ever classic, I just had it. Yeah, sure you did. So, there we go. Nicely stored, easy to find. I don't know. I think that's pretty slick. Well, the one other thing that I'd like to point out is the throat opening. And one thing I like here is that the opening is designed with the proper shoulder and all of that in order to house a standard size guide bushing. So if you wanted to use your trim router with a guide bushing, say like when you're doing name templates or that sort of thing, or you're following a template, sometimes you have lettering stencils that you follow with the router. Well, you can put your guide bushing in here and it'll fit just fine. Still use your trim router so it's nice and light and easy to use, but you still have the control and the care and the safety, being that far away from the blade, of using a normal stationary router. I don't know. I think this is a pretty slick setup. So, I don't know. I guess you guys can be the judge. And there you have it. Viewer mail and a gift from a longtime viewer. Guys, I can't really give you a review on this Miles Craft auxiliary base for your trim router, because what you saw on today's show is the first time I've ever used it. So honestly, how can you give a review just from trying it those 2 seconds? You can't. This show isn't about a review of a router base. What it is it's basically saying thank you to those of you out there who have been generous enough over time to send me packages or cards or letters or that sort of thing. I just think it's absolutely spectacular, and I'm blown away by the generosity of my viewers. Now, Barry, who sent this to me, even added this little note. I want to share this with you. I hope Barry doesn't mind that I do, but it says, "Hi Ken, just thought you could make use of this as I have never used it, Barry." And when someone takes something that they have because they're not using it, and they instantly think of me and say, you know what, man, I thought that you could use this, that honestly is very humbling, because I'm a nobody. I'm just a host of a show. And without you guys as the audience, this show wouldn't exist. And the fact that you think enough of me to send me stuff like this, honestly, is it leaves me speechless. It truly does. So Barry, I want to thank you very much. I absolutely love this router base, and you're going to see it used on the show for a long time to come. You know what? I like it too much to throw it through the window. There you go. There you go. All right. Okay. Now, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. A lot different from what you normally see on the program, but of course that's the whole point of Alternative Tuesdays. It's something a little different and just gives me a chance to sort of chat. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss notifications of future shows. And I honestly hope you're going to join me next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays. Thanks again, Barry.